Anthropic just dropped one of the most useful features in Claude Code ever. It's called /BTW. It saves you twice the tokens and allows you to do things in half the time. And I don't really think a lot of people know about it. Now, previously, if I was having a conversation with Claude Code, let's say I ask it to scrape 1,000 pay-per-click agency owner leads and then give them to me in a Google Sheet. I wanted to ask a question to Claude Code in the middle of this. It might have been related to the skill, to the context that we just loaded in our token window. Well, the only way for me to do this would have literally been to open up another Claude Code thread, ask it a question, tell me about scrape leads, and then have it go on its way. The issue with that, obviously, is every time you load a new instance of Claude Code, you're consuming a tremendous number of tokens that aren't actually related to the work that you're doing. You basically have like a fixed 10 to 20,000 token cost every single time you open a new window, and there was no way not to consume that. Well, that's where /BTW comes in handy. Now I could tell it to scrape 1,000 PPC agency owner leads, but if halfway through I have either a follow-up question about this, or maybe I want it to give it to me in a CSV, all I need to do is type /BTW and then write what I want to say. So, sorry, I meant a CSV. This will dynamically open a new window called the /BTW window that allows us to insert information through the conversation chain without actually interrupting the thread. I can also ask it questions about, let's say, the specific skill, taking advantage of a lot of the functionality and features here. So I could say /BTW, tell me how this skill works. While it's currently working on the skill, it'll also go through the skill documentation, and then instead of forcing me to reload all of my tokens, now it's giving me context and information in this little answering thread. And you can see it's actually doing that while it's also debugging the rest of everything up above. So based on what I've read so far, here's how all of it works. This is a window that doesn't close as the context continues to pump above here. And so it's also just a lot more convenient because now we have this little side window. We can have a conversation with it without necessarily needing like 20 parallel instances. So this is a big deal. Previously, before /BTW, I was spending significantly more in token costs. Anytime I wanted to ask a question that was related to the context of the first thread, but maybe didn't want to interrupt that main thread, I had to open up a whole new Claude Code session. And then in that Claude Code session, say something like, hey, go find me the conversation context from, the conversation I was just having on X, Y, and Z. We have to refind assets. We have to split our context. There's just a tremendous amount of work that basically we need to do, in order to get that done. But with BTW, now we can actually have the main conversation window up here and then have a little side conversation down here without actually having to parallelize, without actually having to, switch our contexts and then start multitasking and so on and so forth. So it's way cheaper. You have everything in a unified context window just in one thread. So the quality of the responses probably goes up. In terms of how this works, it's about as simple as possible. You just type /BTW. You have to be in a terminal version of Claude Code as of the time of this video, but I bet you that's going to change. You then give it the request in the same message. So don't just type /BTW and then press enter. That's not going to work. You have to type /BTW space, whatever the heck you want. That's going to open up this little side panel here with the /BTW in yellow. And then you sort of have three options. You can read through this, then press space, enter, or escape to dismiss. When you do this, I'm going to press space over here, you'll just snap right back to the main thread, and that'll open you up to ask other questions. What's going on with these, errors, for instance? That'll allow Claude to actually answer me without me actually having to pause this every 5 seconds. I can actually gain context while things are going on. If you don't currently have this, it's pretty simple and straightforward to get. Make sure on the top left-hand corner of your anti-gravity Visual Studio Code instance, you open the extension, click on the settings. If you don't already have access to this, it's probably because your Claude Code either extension or maybe your Claude Code for desktop functionality is not updated. So make sure that auto update is on. If you have a specific issue with this, you can actually go click install specific version, and then you can update to the main version here, which is 2.1.73 in this case, 36 minutes ago. You can also just uninstall Claude Code if you're using the VS Code extension and then reinstall it. That usually works fine. Once you're done with that, head over to settings. And then at the very bottom here, you're going to always want to have use terminal on. Otherwise, you're going to have to manually go into Claude's GUI and then type /terminal, which while possible is just kind of annoying to do. And it usually takes a fair amount of time. Just because of how Claude Code works and the fact that the terminal version was first, they usually develop the new features for terminal. Despite the fact that you might have seen me use the GUI in other videos, I do that more for simplicity, not for cutting edge features. So definitely take a look at that. That'll open up this new terminal thing. And then you could say, hey, what's up? And while it's answering, you could ask something else as well. Hopefully that clarifies things, and you guys now know everything you need to know to crush the /BTW feature, change your workflow, take advantage of both the inbuilt parallelization and the reduced token costs, and have a lovely rest of your day.